We're heading into round 9 of the 2026 Candidates Tournament. And in this video, I'd like to look at the game between Fabiano Caruana and Anish Giri. Now, both those players are fighting to stay in contention for first place. They're trying to catch the leader, Javahir Sindarov. Now, let's just have a quick look at the standings after 8 rounds. You can see Sindarov with a 2-point lead over Caruana and Giri. So a decisive, basically they both needed a decisive result. A draw really wouldn't help that much. So they were playing each other and Sindarov had black against blue baum. More on that one at the end of this game. So here we go. Caruana playing white against Giri. Caruana lost against Nakamura, disastrous game. But in the last round, Giri won against Pragyanananda. So Giri with a bit of momentum. But this was always going to be a really good battle with both players going for the win. Let's take a look and see what happened. For this game, Caruana returned to e4. I always think of him as basically being an e4 player. So it's a gioco piano that leads to these really complex positions. It's been so popular over the last few years because there aren't the same forcing lines that you get in the Spanish. So this is very much an open fight, although there's a lot of theory in this. And bishop a7. So it's preempting any d4 from white. So these very standard maneuvers, and the knight has shifted around to g6. So supports the e-pawn, and later on it might be able to hop into f4. Bishop d3. So the bishop is looking perhaps just to drop back here if it's attacked. And that supports the e-pawn. So, it looks very much like a Spanish, actually, this position. But there's just more tension. So the knight comes around to f1 and knight f4. Now, you could say the normal move here would be just to withdraw that bishop, put it on c2. That bishop is so important in the gioco piano, in the Spanish. But no, instead of bishop c2, Caruana very quickly played knight g3. So this is obviously part of his preparation. And Giri took the bishop. Why not? And basically, in this kind of position, I think bishops are better than knights. So why not take it off? I suppose after that exchange, you could say that, White's position has cleared a little bit. White's development is pretty easy. The bishop can come to e3. It'd be nice to exchange off those bishops. So White is very comfortable, but somehow I really like that piece, which looks in both directions of the board. Well, anyway, let's see what Caruana had in mind. So a4. And here Caruana thought for over 20 minutes. And he came up with d5, which is very committal. You certainly don't need to push that pawn. The natural move, to my eyes, looks like bishop e3, because there's no need to commit the pawn yet. And then you can decide whether to exchange, whether to hold it, whether to exchange, whether to push. In general, I think black's position is very comfortable anyway. I do like this bishop pointing down here, and that pawn on a4 just creates a little bit of pressure on the queen side. But d5 is really committal. It makes life just much easier for black, actually. Once you know that the pawn structure is fixed, then black is just very comfortable and has choice of plans, actually. And now, to my mind, this is a really bizarre decision. After this exchange, Caruana must have realised, his position isn't that great already. The move you want to make here is queen takes, so he didn't play this. Because of f5, And actually that knight on g6 is beautifully placed, about to hop into f4, and the queen can come to f6. I mean, that's a very pleasant position for black, very easy to play. But Caruana, during that 20-minute think, had obviously cooked up this idea of recapturing the pawn with the pawn, so that this knight is never going to hop, whoops, I misfired with the arrow, is never going to hop into f4. Obviously that's covered. But I really dislike these pawns. They're just fixed, and later on they could well be vulnerable. And it means that white's king is a little bit weakened as well. And Giri played excellently. b5, so gaining space on the queen side. And that actually makes room for the queen to bounce over on this diagonal, perhaps a7, perhaps b6, looking at that pawn already. You know, I think black is very, very comfortable here. So Caruana played b4, an exchange. Queen b8, there we go, the queen is transferring. And queen b6. So this is very nice for black, I think. So there's pressure here. I mean, maybe a rook could come here. Maybe we're going to push the pawn. I mean, I don't see that white has any play here. This is the problem. Caruana played knight f5, but it's no big deal. I mean, basically, you know, black can control this. Okay, this was played. I mean, you don't have to play that, but it's reasonable. Covers e7. No need to exchange off, because I think black would be very comfortable with this kind of position. Recapturing with a pawn drives the knight away. b4. Yeah, very easy plan for black. Giri played excellently. So, of course, if that's exchanged, then the pawn is very powerful on a3. Okay, Caruana concedes control of the open file. I mean, something has just gone badly wrong. Who knows what Caruana was thinking when he played d5, but if he'd realised that he was in such a bad position already, there's no way he'd have gone in for this. Queen d1. I mean, white is now just passive. And as I said before, crucially, really without a plan. That's the problem, because there's no play on the king side. You know, this bishop covers f5. This pawn chain is solid. There's no plan for white. So Caruana just had to defend doggedly in this position. There's an argument here for black just to play rook a3, actually. Just keeping as many of the major pieces on the board as possible. But anyway, queen b6, still good. And I mean, it's very hard to offer advice in this kind of position. But Caruana just running a little short of time and just sweating a bit under the pressure. You can see black building steadily. He decided to bring his knight back to defend on the queen side. But this makes things much worse. You know, it looks a bit funny to have the knight stuck on h4, but it does prevent any plans with this f5 push. It does mean the bishop can't go to g6. It'll just be exchanged off. It's an odd position, but it does a job, basically. But once the knight retreats, then this is far worse. So the knight covers these squares. Well, fair enough. But watch what happens now. It's the bad bishop bounce, as I like to call it. You see this in the Kalashnikov, where the bishop goes from e7 or maybe g5, e7 to d8 to b6 round here, onto this splendid diagonal. And you see this maneuver most often in the French, actually, where this bishop comes to an excellent diagonal, and here, well, it's just hitting that weak pawn on e4, so both pawns under attack. And it's not really very nice having these pieces lined up on the diagonal of the bishop. You just feel that something is going to happen. That's an interesting moment. Giri thought for about 5 minutes here and exchanged on a1. There is absolutely nothing wrong with rook b2, just maintaining the pressure. So there's pressure here, here, here. The queen stands well. And here's the trick, that black can make progress with c6, and that actually just cracks white's position open. So you can see that that's going to be a threat just to open lines. And if that's exchanged off, well, you can see how that rook dominates the second rank, and all these pawns are weak basically, and that should be winning for black. Okay, let's go back. But Giri exchanged off. I mean, he must have thought this was the kind of simplest way to win. I mean, he wasn't running that short of time. This is move 37. He played c5 and obviously thought that this was just a technical win. In fact, Caruana has a chance here. Caruana played king g3. After that, he's lost. He had to exchange and then played knight c2. Because after this is actually okay for white. Queen a8, you come back. White hangs on. I mean, there are other variations there, but that's the gist of it. You play this and knight c2. Okay, so c5 played, and yeah, after king g3, this really is winning for black. Point of c5 was just to cover b4. So it means that this knight is never going to have a chance to attack the pawn on b4, and it's just hopelessly placed. Queen a7 from Giri. Queen b1. I mean, if the knight comes here, you can see how the queen is just going to crawl in. It looks absolutely dreadful. There are too many weak spots in the position. I mean, the knight is a weak spot as well, actually. Queen b1. Tempting to shut out black's queen, but now it's time to advance on the other side of the board. And there's not a lot that white can do here. I mean, it's almost a kind of sort of fun position. h4. Yeah, so that opens up this diagonal, if necessary, for the bishop. King g4. Okay, Caruana would like to take here, but then queen e7. Well, if king takes, then bishop takes e4 is a very tasty move. Well, let me just show that. King e4, bishop e4, and that'll be a discovered check here after queen takes bishop f5 check. But that didn't happen. Oh no. Caruana played queen d3. So this is move 42. It's after the time control. I mean, there was mild time pressure, but the position was the problem, really. Now, it's time for me to have a lovely drink of my Barry's tea. Cheers. And it's time for you to have a think. How would you finish this off with black? Black to play and win. Cheers.
Do you want to improve your chess? Get access to live masterclasses with yours truly? Then subscribe to patreon.com/PowerPlayChess, and for just $25 a month, you get a newsletter with a test game, calculation puzzles, a monthly opening survey, access to an archive with over 100 opening surveys. And you can join in live masterclasses exclusive to patrons, where you can ask me questions directly over Zoom. All for only $25 per month. Do subscribe to patreon.com/PowerPlayChess and join the club.
Giri had planned a beautiful finish here. Did you spot it? So f5 check. Pawn takes pawn. This is the game continuation. And after king h6, that's the key move. Caruana resigned. Okay, why did he resign? Well, if Pawn takes bishop. Here's the nice move. E4. And when the queen retreats, queen g5 is mate. So you see that pawn covers the f3 square. Isn't that a lovely checkmate? Or if the king tries to run, then here, bishop h5 check, and queen g5. Very beautiful checkmate. So what a tremendous game from Giri, actually. I think, he took control beautifully when Caruana tried to mix it a little bit with f takes e3. I mean, it's already not great after this d5 move. But after that, I think Giri played with energy, played really nicely, switching from the queen side back to the king side. Now, there were inaccuracies along the way from both players. Nevertheless, I would call that a kind of classic Giri victory. Very strategic, kept everything under control, and won very smoothly. So he's got some momentum. Let's take a look at the scores. Now I should mention, actually, just very, very quickly, Sindarov had a good chance against Bluebaum. Let me just show you the position. And given his form and how sharp he's been, then it's surprising that he didn't win this. So Sindarov with black attacking. And in this position, he played bishop takes pawn. And after the queen exchange, well, Bluebaum held on to draw. But instead of going to the endgame, he could have avoided the queen exchange, just dropped back with queen b7. And then taken this. And if that's taken, c5 is a nice move. So obviously that can't be taken because of the lineup of king and queen. And after queen c3, rook takes bishop. Well, it's obvious that black is going to win that position because with these major pieces on the open A and B files and white's king having no cover, it's game over. So Sindarov was kicking himself after the game. He only drew. Okay, let's take a look at the scores on the doors. So after, let me see, 9 rounds? Yes, 9 rounds. I'm losing the plot. So we have Jalohir Sindarov still out in the lead, of course, with 7 points. But Giri, with that win, has gained a little bit of ground. So the gap now is only 1.5 points. And then next is Caruana on 4.5. So he's only on 50% now. So realistically, it's a 2-horse race. Can Giri gain ground on Sindarov with just 5 rounds to go? The gap is only 1.5 points. It's not over. It's not over. Let's just take a look at the pairings for round 10. We've got Yesipienko against Bluebaum, Sindarov against Pragyanananda. Okay, that's an interesting one. Prag should have won today. He'll be very disheartened. So he only drew. And Sindarov, yeah, having white. Wei against Caruana. And Giri white against Nakamura. That's going to be very, very interesting. So, big games in round 10. We'll see whether Giri can close that gap.